Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Start, Grow and Monetise Your Podcast with me, James Burtt, and him, Alex Chisnall. That's right, I'm not going to do the big shouty thing that I normally do because I know it upsets you. Do you prefer that way?
That's fine. I'm easy each way.
You don't care. He's had a big lunch. Spotty's had a big lunch. He's had a big lunch. Right, today on the podcast, we're going to talk about how to turn your listeners into super fans. Now, this is really important within podcasting because there are more and more shows launching pretty much every single hour of every single day of every week of every month of every year. The competition is getting more and more stiff, and because of that was a weird thing to say, wasn't it?
Pretty weird.
I'm going to carry on going though, and because of that. Because I think because more money is coming into the marketplace, you're seeing more people and more professional organisations start to get into podcasting. And the higher that the metric in the bar goes, the more competition there is and the tougher the podcasting space is getting. I think we are fully now at the point where a podcast is not just a piece of audio or video, like it's a production now, isn't it, at the top levels?
It's a show.
It's a show, absolutely.
Dun, dun, dun!
That was a show. So this is why it's important to nurture that audience and turn them into super fans, because there are just so many other options out there. We're going to talk today about community building, exclusive content, personal engagement, and live events. So community building, creating spaces for your audience to connect with you and with each other. How have you seen this work well in the podcast space?
Funnily enough, I did a whole course on this for LinkedIn Learning.
Did you?
I did, yeah.
Should we put a link to it in the show notes?
I'll give you a free link.
Thank you. That's very, what, for everybody?
Yeah.
Guys, I mean, I'm not being funny, right? This is the gift that keeps on giving.
No, I think you're absolutely right. If you can, personalise the experience to a degree, I mentioned earlier, like going to, my favourite podcast is the High Performance Podcast.
Still your favourite?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. And I am a super fan because I was one of probably 0.5% of people maybe who listen to the podcast, well, probably less than that, 0.1% of people who listen to that podcast who went to the live event of that podcast, because I wanted to experience it live. I wanted to see the hosts, and I know you've seen them being part of a live experience with them as well. And I think that connectivity of going to something like that, and I took someone with me, I met friends there as well, you make an evening of it, you meet like-minded people, and seeing how they did that, with the extra touches of having like a signed copy of the book as part of the ticket, things like that, is definitely the kind of things that as a super fan, I would totally buy into, and I would then go and tell not just 10 people about this experience, but how many listeners do we have on a regular basis? 100,000 a month, I've just told now?
Yeah, I think so. Let me just double check. Yes, 101,000.
101,000. Okay. But, community building is massive. There's many different ways to do it, which we don't have the time to go through now. But for me, if you can create these spaces somewhere, whether you start off, keep it super simple by starting a newsletter, okay? And you're delivering something every week, behind the scenes look at that week's episode, some of your thoughts, some, nuggets to take away from that podcast that you could implement in your own life. My one for my podcast is super simple. We need to do one for this podcast. It's where that community has somewhere to go.
Yeah.
People will start an Instagram channel and their podcast will live there. Might be a Facebook group being the most obvious place people start, but now you've got where does Stephen Bartlett host his on?
Discord.
Discord. You've got Telegram, stuff like that. There are loads of places where you can build community, but ultimately, for me, to build that community, it needs to be a two-way thing. So you need to be engaging with your audience. You need to be connecting with them. You need to be asking their opinion. You can do polls, you can get people to write in, you can run some competition, but you want like a two-way relationship to make it work, rather than you just talking at that audience. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
which is a really easy mistake to make with communities. Like, I've got a community of people. No, you're just using it as a broadcast platform.
Correct.
To go and tell them the same thing.
Here's now more shit about the same episode.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So there are, and talking of broadcast channels, there's literally a thing on Instagram called broadcast channels, which is really interesting. I've jumped into quite a few to see how they work and the dynamics of it. And to your point, the ones that work best, even though as a broadcast channel, you can't contribute, like you can't post stuff in there as a as a consumer.
User. Yeah.
But they do polls, they do surveys, they ask people for questions. There's a guy who I've just done some podcast work called Miles Nazaire, who he used to be Made in Chelsea, still in Made in Chelsea, and he runs a club called Life In, and he does like run clubs, hot yoga, all this like cool stuff about, they do sort of like talks and seminars that they're working on, all this kind of stuff. He's really, really good at engaging that community because he's always asking, do you want to do a run club this week? Or would you want to go and do an outdoor PT session? Or he's crowdsourcing the information. And I see other platforms.
Crowdsourcing, good word.
It's thank you very much. I knew that would be useful at some point today.
You can wipe it off your hand.
The other way. Yeah. Chisnall's a legend. I don't need that either. But what I am seeing, even from really good shows, the broadcast channel bit just doesn't work. I'm not going to name them by name, but I'm going to show you an example of it privately after.
Okay.
But that two-way communication thing, I think if you take nothing else away from this show, and you might not, but take that when you are trying to create... Wowee, that's another old school music reference. We should do that. This should be like an Easter egg. Like every episode, you're going to give us an.
Could be the USP for a new show.
It could be, couldn't it? Yeah, Chisnall's Easter eggs. I'm not sure anyone's tuning in for that, but yeah, make that space for the audience to connect. Genuine connection is the thing that you need to create with a community.
You've even got on YouTube a tab called, guess what?
Community.
Yeah. How many YouTube channels do you see that don't even have that tab on there as an active channel?
Yeah.
And you can just start that off by posting the same stuff that you're posting on Instagram and LinkedIn on there, but you can run polls, you can ask questions, you can get pigeons.
Pigeons.
You can't get pigeons.
You can't get pigeons on YouTube.
No, you can't. You can't. I'm telling you, you can't. I know.
I'm not doing podcasts with you after lunch ever again. You're useless for about an hour.
I am. The dove from above.
The dove from above, old school reference.
The crow from below.
So yeah, there you go. That's one thing you can do. Telling you. And by the way, I think you mentioned another great thing there.
Thank you.
That super
was it the crow from below?
No, it was not.
Oh man.
That super fans, like you can use events and stuff to make super fans, but then super fans become your marketing machine because, like you said, that night, and I saw people at Chris Williamson's podcast at the same High Performance. Yeah, I've been to a few things, and you've got. I'm a big super fan. Even me and Jimbo have done one for the business broadcast podcast. We had 350 people at Leicester Square Theatre, and there's like selfies going up. Like you think about the combined reach of that stuff, it's huge. It's absolutely massive. So in a lot of instances, like a live event, I know we talked about on a previous episode, people might be going, well, I don't want to jump into it that far, or I don't have to hire out. By the way, Leicester Square Theatre, it's only $5,000 to hire out. Like it's not a lot of money. But
is it?
Yeah, it's not a lot of dough.
I'm going to take that and
party.
No,
fine.
No.
But by doing those events, you create an even deeper level of engagement with your audience, and you're much more likely then for those people to spread the word. And still in today's age of digital marketing, wizardry and AI, word of mouth recommendation
wizardry
is still the number one way for people to buy into you and buy from you ultimately.
Well, when our agency launched podcast recently, the Tile Yard Secret Sauce podcast, we did a live event.
That's a great name, by the way. Carry on.
Source, SOURCE.
Like they're
Get
the
it?
source
Boom,
of,
boom.
Got it. It's very good.
But they had a live arena at their HQ with Dolby Atmos
thing. Yeah, that's cool.
And we just did a Q&A. We just got one of the guests to actually interview the host, so people got to know more about the host because he's got a great story as well. And we're, there's a bar in there as well. It's really, easy thing to do. But, with the football podcast we're talking about, I was like, we 100% need to be doing a live launch event for this, invite only, to the great and good. And people for example, this is a brand new podcast. We're launching with, 4 episodes, for example. We're going to be inviting at least one of those guests to come to the live event and do like a Q&A, do like a merch giveaway as well, what team they play for, you can buy a load of that, give that away, run a competition, but also tactical invites for people you actually want to get on as guests for the show, as potential sponsors, brand partners you want to get on the show. There's all sorts of cool shit you could do. And now that I know that is only $5,000, because I'll be thinking 350, that'd be about the kind of limit I'd want to invite people to. I don't want it any bigger than that, maybe smaller than that, but yeah, that's good. $5,000 for that.
Yeah, it's good.
I like it. Okay.
I'm
paying for that, by the way. But
someone else's though. It's nice that you care about their money.
Thank you.
I would also say to your point there, if you're doing, because you might be thinking, well, I've only got a small audience, but that's absolutely fine. Well, you could do almost like a panel conversation, like we're in a studio right now. You could easily do this as a live podcast recording. You could have 10 people in here, 15 people in here, quite comfortably.
Yeah.
What you want to do intentionally, I think, to build up sort of the right look and feel and the right vibe is to have it oversubscribed for the size of the room. So if you've got 15 people in a small room, that's great. It's better to have that than to have 30 people in a 100-person room or, like 100 people in a 300-people room. So you don't have to go that big. But again, this will turn people into those super fans. And like I say, and also, great idea about like let's get the sponsors down, let's get the future guests down.
Like great. You're going to copy it, aren't you? Yeah, knew it.
Chisnall does know a thing or two. Note to self. Personal engagements, I think this is really key as well. I've seen some shows do this really well. DMs, comments, and making time. If you are saying that you're making time for, and we've done it, we built the Pod School community on School.
That was
which was a great experience. It was just too time consuming based on our business models. It was taking up 10 hours plus 12 hours each per week, which is collectively 24 hours a week.
Like
you can't do
3 working days.
3 working days.
Yeah, bonkers.
Yeah, which is just too much.
We loved it. We loved the idea,
100%.
but we couldn't scale it.
No, and you can't scale it. But equally, if we were committed to that or found a way to do that, and that's why it didn't work, because of the way that you have to engage on that platform is long form giving of time, is live webinars, etc. But if you are trying to build a community, if you are trying to turn those listeners into super fans, you need to make sure that you do make the time for DMs, comments. Lewis Howe still, every time, if I comment on one of his posts, he always sends me a message back. Oh, thanks so much for it. Like, I know he's probably sending that. It's probably one of his team or whatever.
Of course it is.
Don't need to burst my bubble that hard. Lewis, I love you.
I actually had...
Oh, shut up. Lewis is my friend.
No.
He's been on my podcast. Just do it.
He's one of my favourite singers.
Who, Lewis Houses?
You just coughed over that. No, someone else. And they put, an amusing story. They were getting ready for the sound check to do this gig in, I don't know, Poland or wherever it was. And the drummer, it's always the drummer, got locked in the toilet, okay? And they were posting on there pictures going, and they posted up the internal comms channel, and it was just hilarious, the scene, the way that they relayed the events, like, you're ready to go on live now. No, we're not, the drummer's in the toilet. What do you mean the drummer's locked in the toilet? He can't be locked in the toilet. This is, they just, the whole thing went down, and I put a laughing emoji, and then he went and put a laughing emoji back to me, and I was like, oh my God, he's literally responded back to me. So then I can't remember what I did, but I put a comment like crazy or something, and then he literally just put something like that, it was. And I was like, well, that's nothing. But equally, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, that's that person from that massive band that I love.
Yeah. And it genuinely seemed like that was him.
Yeah.
It might not have been, but quite often, and you'll get this again with your football podcast as well, is that they might get somebody to create and publish all of their content. This is like the celebrities. But they're doing the responding.
DMs,
They're in the DMs.
Yeah, definitely.
Isn't that mad? I've got something great for audio, by the way.
Go on. Chisnall's having a wee. Lovely. Thank you for that. For anyone who's listening to this podcast and needed the toilet, now you really need to go. Yeah, the key to that is, and as we found out with community, is you've got to make the time and allocate the time towards doing it. And I think, make it a two-way conversation, make it a place where people feel heard and seen. Because again, when you've gone to High Performance or Chris Williamson, the weird thing is that the people in that room are just like you. Chris Williamson's, no one was drinking.
Right.
Everyone's having a new tonic outside. Everyone's very conversational. Everyone's very chatty. Everyone's when you're chatting to people inside. There was these 2 young lads, they were 23 from Ireland, and they were just like, oh yeah, we're proper go-getters, and they'd seen the tickets come up last minute. They flew over for it. Oh, what did you do today? Did you go out last night? No, because we knew we were coming here today, so we went and saw the British Museum. I'm like, That's the people that they curate in those communities. So if you get the curation part of it, it can be super powerful. Final thing, and this is, we've already sort of semi-touched on it already, is the live events. Bringing together the community offline, I think, is so powerful. We talked about this on a previous episode. That IRL, that in real life experience, people in a digital, predominantly digital world, or a hybrid world that we now live in at least, people love these community engagements, these in-person things. And as we said a minute ago, they don't have to be massive. I did, when I was doing a podcast with Miles, because to get to know him, because I'd never met him before, I'd just seen him off the TV, I knew he'd be good for the show, but I was chatting to his manager, and she said, I'm going to come down with him just in case he's a bit nervous. I said, it'd be good to, he doesn't need to be nervous, he's going to be really conversational, going to be super fun. I knew he'd be brilliant at it anyway. I said, I see he's got a run club on Saturday, maybe I'll go for a run anyway. So maybe I'll go down and meet him in person. And she's like, it'd be amazing if you did. So I did. I went down to Hammersmith, I went to Battersea Park, and I went for this 8K run. Easy 8K. Easy for you, he says. Easy 8K after the marathon last year. But we had a chat for 10, 15 minutes before we went running. Really good. And then when he turned up on the day, we've already established a bit of know, like, and trust. We've got a bit of rapport. And it just made it all that much easier. So again, if you've got a podcast, I'm not saying like for an AI pharmaceutical podcast, you need to have a run club.
Or take pharmaceuticals.
Take pharmaceuticals on your run. That'd be an interesting one, wouldn't it? And record your progress the further you run.
Did you just see as a little segue here, the guy who ran the marathon chain smoking, this Chinese dude.
No.
This is like a Jamie Lang podcast now. Literally running along while lighting up. As soon as the fag's finished, he lights another fag up.
How do you do that? Why would you?
But he doesn't smoke normally. He only smokes when he's running.
Really?
I bullshit you. I do not bullshit you, sorry. Google it.
He doesn't smoke apart from when he's running?
Yeah.
What sort of like health hack is that? Anyway, we've gone too far. But again, if there is a way that you can engage that audience, bring the community together, create exclusive content, make people feel seen and heard, create space for create spaces for your audience to genuinely connect. And by the way, this whole like connection thing, yes, it might feel a bit overwhelming for you, but if you get it right, the community will self-curate.
Yep. Correct.
If you
get it right.
Yeah, if you get it right and you have separate channels and separate polls, you have separate conversations, and there's someone in there, yes, you might need sort of a bit of community curation or management, but if you get it right, then a lot of the heavy lifting is done by the people in that community.
Absolutely.
And how beneficial is it going to be?
They are
super fans.
Pat Cash.
Pat Sharp.
Pat Flynn.
Pat Flynn.
He actually wrote a book called Superfans.
Oh, did he?
Which is really, he's a really famous.
Had him on your podcast, have you?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah. He's a very famous podcaster, right?
He is. It goes.
What's the book called again?
CEO, Rogan, Pat Flynn, Chisnall. Isn't that that's most people's top 4?
Yeah.
Famous podcasters, I think.
But it's actually a really good book. If you're looking to start, grow, and monetize your podcast, I would recommend, we should do a version of that, of reading Pat Flynn's Superfans book, because it's a fantastic way to learn how to grow your own community of superfans.
Why are we whispering? It's just got creepy. Right. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you are looking to curate your superfans, let us know how you're doing it in the comments on YouTube or on Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review wherever you download your podcast. And if you don't mind, if you are maybe in a community and maybe you're helping other people with their podcast, or you know a mate who's launched a podcast, pass the pod to a pal. Pass the pod along to... Bye.